welcome to the Poverty Truth Network chat show. I'm Andrew, and throughout the series of shows, I'm meeting with commissioners from around the United Kingdom to find out a little bit about what's going on in their Poverty Truth Commission, listen to some of the wisdom that's coming out of that, and then think through some of the issues that we as a network might want to address. Today, I'm with the East Surrey Poverty Truth Commission, and I have commissioners who are Dan, Alan, and Michael with us. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here today. And for each of these commission chat shows, we've invited you to bring along something that you could not live without. So, Alan, let me come to you. What is it that you could not live without?
That's my son, William, and my daughter, Lauren. They are my everything, simple as that. They've been through my life with addiction, alcoholism, mental health, and they stick by me through whatever challenges I have. They are, wonderful human beings.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alan, for sharing that. Michael, how about you? Who have you brought along, or what have you brought along?
I've also brought along. This is a photograph of my family. It's as Alan said, they're not only special, they're everything to me. The particular reason that I like this one, it was before my hair went grey, which was always nice to remember, and it was back at that point when I was actually taller than my children, who are both now taller than me, and they're still teenagers. So it's nice to have those memories.
Dan, how about you? What have you brought along for us?
Exactly the same. I'm gonna. There you go. There's a little photo of me with my little tribe. Yeah, if it wasn't for them and my other half was taking the picture. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be around. They kept me going. So yeah, family's special. Family's something that you got to keep hold of.
Brilliant. So 3 family-orientated guys as commissioners from East Surrey. Now, East Surrey, a lot of us kind of associate East Surrey with kind of a wealthy area of the country, and yet there's a Poverty Truth Commission. Alan, how come there needs to be a Poverty Truth Commission in somewhere that everybody else thinks is so wealthy?
I think that Epsom is by where it is quite a leafy suburban area, on the outskirts of greater London, but it also has a number of areas that there's what you could best describe as deprivation, or areas where people maybe don't have access to employment, to all of the things that come along with having a job, being able to have a suitable, enjoyable kind of life. Some people do really struggle in our area. I was brought up on what you would class as a council estate in the early 1970s, and life was difficult and challenging. And for me personally, I've lived in Epsom for 48 years. I still see many people who have exactly the same challenges as we had, 40 years ago. So for me, I kind of think, poverty seeps into all aspects of our daily lives. And what our little Poverty Truth Commission is doing is just trying to shine a bit of a light and just say to people, do you know that this is happening? This is real. There are people who are suffering.
Thanks, Alan, for that. It's really helpful to kind of recognise that actually, even in what seem to be wealthy areas, there are always people that kind of are struggling against poverty in much the same way as in other parts of the country.
Yes.
Dan, you've been a commissioner since the start of the Poverty Truth Commission in East Surrey. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Well, when I first got told about it, I was like, oh yeah, I like the idea of that. Having grown up in a council house, single parent family, I the way we grew up, I recognise now that we weren't well off. We were struggling. We were what you'd class as in poverty. Sometimes not having electric. Sometimes having bailiffs at the door because of council tax and everything. It was a difficult time because I grew up close to Epsom. I grew up in Leatherhead, and in Leatherhead, we're 15 minutes away from Cobham. At Cobham, you go to Cobham and it's like football stars, and there's all these famous people, and even in Leatherhead, some of the houses sell for 250 to 500,000 pounds, and then you've got people that are struggling for food and electric, and it's having seen that, I really wanted to get involved in the Poverty Truth Commission. I felt like because I had my own issues at the time, I felt like, I want to do something positive. I want to do something, get involved. At first, like I would say that I found it difficult because it didn't relate to certain issues. But coming up to Lancaster and going to the network gathering, that opened my eyes. That made me even more like, I want to do something. I want to do something. But in my head, when I say I want to do something, I want to march on Parliament and tell them, you need to do this, you need to do that, and like take up arms, that sort of thing. That's what goes through my head. But then I talk to other people that are probably better at dealing with those sort of things. Then it's there's other ways and means around it. Start small and then go big. But yeah, 100% is positive. I don't think you could ever say that there's anything negative about a poverty truth commission. I don't think there's anything negative about it. Everything about it is positive. Everything about it is trying to help people. It doesn't matter what comes out of it or what you want to achieve at the beginning. Something else has happened, but you've achieved something. It's all positive. It's all good.
Michael, you joined as a business commissioner.
Yes.
And I'm aware that you and Dan have been in one of the theme groups for East Surrey around education. Do you want to explain a bit about what you've looked at in that group and what you're seeking to achieve?
We started as a subgroup with a very noble ambition of, let's make sure we can do something concrete by the time we finish. Once we looked at it and talked about it a little bit, we realised that education as a topic is a massive thing, and it's not a devolved thing fully. It's really a national thing for the UK. The challenge we had was to focus on something that was real, where we could potentially make an impact, and where we could start to bring some real life examples of the difference we could make. What we stumbled across, more through good luck than anything else, was the part of the community back at the beginning of this year in January and February, was the part of the community that was excluded in education because they didn't have a computer or a laptop device that they could use from home. Many children now, and most children now, get a great deal of their homework to be done online. And what we found through some work that we were doing with the food bank, we had found different people in the community who didn't have an access to that home computer or laptop for their children to do the homework. So they either weren't doing the homework, or they were doing the homework but having to do it during lunchtime at school, and therefore missing out on their lunch and missing out on the social interaction that goes with that break time. So that was what we tried to address. And that's what we started with. So we started small with a prototype, simply an idea. Can we find educational institutions, businesses, organisations in the part of Surrey that we're in that after 3 or 4 years, when they change their computers, when they change their devices, can we find some organisations or people that will donate those old but still working devices to us? We can refresh them and then get them out into the community where they're needed. We're now working with Surrey County Council to find a partner who will help us to refresh or reset those devices so that all old data is removed and they're ready to go out into the community. And then we've identified 3 schools that we're going to partner with who will help us identify children or families that need that sort of help. And then together we will donate those devices to those families under the guidance of the schools for the benefit of the children. Our target before the end of the commission is to have finished that pilot or have that pilot significantly underway.
And I guess at a time of COVID, we've all been so acutely aware of the digital divide, and particularly the concerns for children who, you know, the kind of inequality in terms of an educational experience is really exaggerated and increased during this time.
COVID has brought that into stark reality for families all across the country. It isn't just the families that didn't have one, it's also those families that might have 2 or 3 or 4 children. If you've got one device, but you've got that many children, and there's online learning going on, who gets priority?
We've got 4 children. We need to be able to at least put 2 of them on the computer at the same sort of time. So yeah, no, I can 100% vouch for that.
Yeah.
One of the things that you've done within the Surrey is create a film, and we're just going to spend a few moments watching that film now.
I'm 62 years old. I have worked all my working life, but 8 months ago I got made redundant. I've had lots of job interviews, but you can just tell when you walk through that door, they look at you and you just know that you're not going to get that job because of your age. Not that they say, but they make up all other excuses. Nobody wants to help you. People just pass you from one organisation to another. And I just feel, well, a bit hopeless at the moment. I'm not defined by my age, but by my wealth of knowledge and experience over the years, and also from bringing up 2 children.
My name is Michael. I hunt for jobs, but I feel judged, often innocently, from the way I look to being overqualified. I don't have my heating on and constantly live under the threat of eviction. Life feels like a battle. I just want to work. I'm not defined by my age and image. I have years of experience and life and the ability to still do a good job.
For me, my experience of poverty, unfortunately, sadly came along when we had a family tragedy. So that was my sister-in-law's home. It burnt down to the floor, literally. So I realised that, you know, there was different levels of poverty where it could be tragedy or you know, a circumstance that could throw you into poverty. The individual community spirit was absolutely fantastic, and they helped the family in question get back on their feet. But as for the system and as for helping out with benefits like that, we found that, you know, a long, painstakingly time, whereas if they didn't have the community members' help, I'm not really sure what would have happened to them, to be honest, because that just took so long in itself. I'm a proud Romany gypsy, but I'm not defined by my ethnicity.
I am a carer. I have 3 people in my family that struggle. My daughter has mental health issues, my son is disabled, and my partner's autistic. I worry about them every single day, but it does not define me. I'm creative, and crocheting helps me relieve my stress.
Growing up, it wasn't necessarily easy. Single parent family. We didn't have a lot, And then as I've become an adult, there have been issues that have taken me down the road of needing like the food bank, as well as help with other organisations. I know there's people that have gone through exactly the same issues as me, or worse in some cases, but they don't get the same help. You go for the interviews, you go through all of the processes that they tell you you've got to go through, and then they get told no. But then, in my opinion, they're worse off than I am. They're suffering with issues different to me, but there's an inconsistency in all of these processes, in all of these organisations. It doesn't work. It's not working. I want to give something back. I want to help, something that's going to change. I'm not defined by my personal challenges. I'm defined by my integrity.
I was on drugs a year and a half, 2 years ago, which I've given up for a year and a half now. And I had a lot of people like coming around and staying in my place. And food bank was not only helping with the food, it was counselling that I had, help from Jonathan Lees to get straightened up and get off the drugs. Jonathan asked me to help out with this project. And I thought it was a good opportunity to get involved and give something back, because food bank have helped me a lot in past years and stuff. It's good to be in a position where I can put something back into it.
I'm not defined by my mental health, my financial circumstances. I am defined by being a father, being a son and being a brother, and I'm also defined by how much I put into my local community to help those who are less fortunate than others.
What are some of the things that you kind of think, actually, these aren't just issues for us in East Surrey, this is a kind of nationwide issue. This is maybe something the network could look at. What are the issues for you there, Alan?
I think for me, there was just one kind of main one when I joined the commission, and that was around what do we define poverty as? You know, you would have thought there would have been one generic fits-all definition that the whole country would use, the government would use, charities would use, individuals would use, and that's not the case. So, you know, I looked at our government, I looked at political parties, I looked at other charities, other organisations, and we all seem to have a different idea of what we perceive poverty to be. So I think for me that became like a bit of a bugbear, because to me, if you're looking at what, like we are, at one subject, it really does help if you have a single starting point where everyone knows this is what we're looking at, this is what we're trying to get hold of, to pull apart and to see what it really means. For me, I would like the network to just look at what is that, what are we trying to define here, what are we looking at, and also to look at the different types of poverty, because that's what one of the best things I've learned from being part of this commission. It doesn't mean that you're homeless on the street with a begging bowl, saying homeless or help me. You know, it could be a guy wearing a suit and a tie who works in the city and can't afford his rent because he's maybe not going to get his annual bonus or something like that. It could be a young family who, you know, can't afford to put anything on their gas, electric, possibly their water, their council tax, their TV licence. Or it could be the mum who has got no nappies. But then I like detail. It's just the way I am. I like, you know, structure and, you know, direction. When I think one of the nicest things about this commission in East Surrey is I've learned to go with the flow. And everything doesn't have to be in Alan's little, worlds. And even though I huff and I puff and I want to knock everyone's houses down and say Alan's way is the best, the lovely thing about this Truth Commission with John, Emma and Penny is just shifting us in, subtle direction. And for me, I come out of some of these meetings thinking, how did they get me to think that?
Dan, how about you? What would you like the network to look at?
If I was to pick one thing, it would be the education side. I'd look at ways of what I would want the network to look at is ways of taking it out into the public and taking it into schools and making people understand this is real. This happens 2 minutes down the road. This happens in your community. And even where we're from, we've got I'm not going to name names, but we've got somebody very high up in a political standing that doesn't believe that there's poverty in our area. But it's true. You just got to walk down the road and I will point out to you people that suffer with poverty. But no, it's not true. It's not true. It doesn't happen. And they're the people I want to educate.
Same question to you, Michael. What do you think the wider network could be looking at?
From the actual commission entity and members, the balance that we have found, the commonality that we have found, the relationships that have formed, the things we find funny together, has been actually quite uplifting and inspiring for me. We have an incredibly diverse and eclectic group of community, civic and business commissioners, and I think for the benefit of the other commissions, that's one of the most important starting points. Get a diverse group, and it's diversity from whichever definition you can imagine, but shuffle that deck of diversity and get those people together, because it really changes the way that things are seen and that you see things. So that would be my starting point, if that's okay. I think there's an important definition, not related to poverty, that one I agree with completely, but related to education. So many people think education is just about schooling and university. And if you haven't gone to university, then you're automatically excluded. You're put in that box over there. Whereas it's much more, education is much more of a culture. It's a lifelong learning opportunity. And that, for me, I think is one of the most important things. How do we make our young people, our next generations, ready for work with a mindset that's got a work ethic and that willingness to commit to lifelong learning? To me, that's really what education is about. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we need to overcome as a country.
That mix of people that you get within the Poverty Truth Commission is a learning experience for everybody. There is nobody that comes in with all the answer. Everybody needs to learn from one another to kind of understand not just the answer, but actually the nature of some of the problem and some of the challenges. There'll be people from lots of different Poverty Truth Commissions watching this. There are probably also people beyond or who are exploring Poverty Truth Commissions. What one piece of wisdom would you want to pass on to them?
We mustn't be afraid of bringing poverty into the light so that people can see the true day-to-day impact it has on individuals and families.
Dan, how about you? What piece of wisdom would you want to give to everybody listening?
You've got to listen to everyone, not just the community commissioners, listen to the civic business commissioners, listen to outsiders, listen to everyone. Everyone has something to give to the process. Don't disregard what people say.
Michael, how about you? What piece of wisdom would you want to pass on?
For me, Andrew, I tried to crystallize it and condense it down. That personally, reading and hearing about poverty and its impacts is not the same as living it every day. And that has been the single biggest takeaway for me. So working at the food bank for 3 years and volunteering every second Friday was fine. But actually, it was still an arm's length. Through the commission, it's been sharing and seeing and feeling those challenges firsthand. There is hope. I genuinely believe that there is hope. Look at some of the things that the housing associations have done because of what we're saying and what we're raising. And the only thing they've done is they've made it personal. It's not just a voice on the telephone where a housing association or a council officer or somebody is dealing with someone. It's a human. They've made them human and made them real. And that's the part that's given me the most hope. That if we can help with that to happen, there's a lot to do across the country, but small steps.
Brilliant. Dan, Alan and Michael, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. If you want to find out more about the East Surrey Poverty Truth Commission, then please take a look on the website. If you want to find out more about Poverty Truth in general, take a look at povertytruth.network.org.uk. And I look forward to seeing you for another chat show soon.